My parents have 7 kids, but only parent 1. So, I exposed their favorite child syndrome.
Hey everyone, I need to tell you about something that happened in my house yesterday that's turned my entire family upside down. And honestly, I don't know if I'm a hero or an asshole, so bear with me while I explain this mess. My name is Marcus, I'm 15 years old, and I live in what can only be described as controlled chaos. I have 7 siblings. 7! Let me introduce you to this circus. There's my older sister Kayla, she's 17, then me at 15, then the boys start. Daniel is 13, Mason is 12, then comes Paisley, she's 9, and well, we'll get to her. After Paisley, there's 3 more boys. Connor is 5, Liam is 4, and baby Ethan is 2. 8 kids total in one house. You'd think with that many children, my parents would have this whole parenting thing figured out by now, right? You'd think they'd have some system, some structure, some semblance of fairness. You'd be wrong. Before I tell you what happened yesterday, you need to understand the dynamic in our house. Because from the outside, we probably look like this big, happy, chaotic family. Mom posts pictures on Facebook of all of us at the park or at birthday parties, and people comment things like, "What a beautiful family," and "You're so blessed." But inside our house, it's a completely different story. My parents have 8 children, but they only actually parent one of them, Paisley. 9-year-old Paisley is their golden child, their princess, their entire world. And the rest of us were basically just background characters in the Paisley show. I know what you're thinking, okay, maybe she's just the cute age, maybe she needs more attention because she's young. But no, we have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old who get less attention than Paisley does. We have a 5-year-old who my parents literally taught to do his own laundry. Connor, a kindergartner, sorts his own clothes and loads the washing machine to the best of his ability because my parents said he needs to learn independence. Paisley doesn't even take her own dishes to the kitchen. I'm not exaggerating. I do the dishes in our house. It's one of my chores, along with about a million other things. Multiple times a day, Paisley will finish eating and just leave her bowl or plate wherever she was sitting. On the couch, on the floor, on the coffee table. Doesn't matter. Just leaves it there like she's royalty, and someone else will handle it. And if I dare to ask her to take her own dish to the kitchen, she'll throw a full-blown tantrum, crying, screaming, running to mom and dad about how I'm being mean to her. And you know what happens? I get grounded. Every single time. Not Paisley, you need to clean up after yourself. Not Marcus is right, you're old enough to help out. Just straight to Marcus, you're grounded for upsetting your sister. This is my life. Kayla and I have talked about this constantly. Late at night when the little ones are finally asleep and the house is quiet, we'll sit in her room or mine and just vent about how unfair it all is, about how exhausted we are, about how we're basically raising 6 children while our parents obsess over 1. Because that's the reality. My parents stopped actively parenting after Paisley was born. Oh, they kept having kids, 3 more after her, but they didn't actually parent those kids. That job fell to me and Kayla. We make sure the boys brush their teeth, we help with homework, we pack school lunches, we read bedtime stories, we break up fights, we kiss scraped knees and check for monsters under beds. Meanwhile, our parents are downstairs making sure Paisley's chicken nuggets are cut into the exact shape she wants, or buying her yet another toy because she saw it at Target and just had to have it, or rearranging their entire schedule because she doesn't want to go to school that day. Don't get me wrong, I love my little brothers. Daniel and Mason are old enough that they kind of take care of themselves, but they still need guidance, you know? And Connor, Liam, and Ethan, they're at ages where they need actual parenting. They need structure and attention and love. And they're not getting it from our parents. Kayla doesn't mind as much as I do. She's always been more patient, more nurturing. She actually wants to be a teacher when she grows up, so in some ways, taking care of the boys is good practice for her. But even she admits it's exhausting. I remember one night about 2 months ago, I found Kayla crying in the bathroom. She was trying to be quiet about it, but I heard her and knocked on the door.
"I'm fine," she said through the door. "No, you're not. Let me in." She opened the door and her eyes were all red and puffy. "I'm just tired, Marcus. I had 3 exams today. Then I came home and Liam was crying because no one had given him lunch. And Ethan had a dirty diaper that had been on for who knows how long. And Mom and Dad were outside playing soccer with Paisley in the backyard." My blood boiled hearing that. They left Ethan in a dirty diaper to play soccer? I don't think they even noticed he needed changing. They were too busy making sure Paisley's game was fun. That's the level of neglect we're talking about. Not of Paisley. Oh no, she's fine. She's more than fine. She has 2 full-time servants who gave birth to her. The neglect is of everyone else. The favoritism isn't even subtle. At dinner, Paisley gets asked about her day in excruciating detail. What did you do at recess? Who did you play with? What was the funniest thing that happened? Did you like your lunch? On and on. The rest of us are lucky if we get a, how was school? And if we try to answer with more than, fine, we get cut off because Paisley remembered another thing she wanted to tell them. For Christmas last year, Paisley got a new iPad, a bike, a dollhouse that was taller than she was, and probably 15 other gifts. I stopped counting. The rest of us got maybe 3 gifts each. Practical stuff too. Clothes, school supplies. Mason got a graphing calculator for math class and acted grateful because he needed it, but you could see the disappointment in his eyes when Paisley unwrapped her 4th American Girl doll. Birthdays are the same way. Paisley's birthday parties are events. Bounce houses, petting zoos, magicians. The rest of us get a homemade cake, and maybe we can invite one friend over. And the worst part, Paisley knows she's the favorite. She's 9 years old, and she's completely aware that she can do no wrong, and the rest of us can do no right. She wields that power like a tiny tyrant. She'll purposely get us in trouble sometimes, just because she can. She'll knock over her own cup of juice and say, Mason did it. She'll hide Mom's keys and say, Daniel took them. She'll draw on the walls and blame Connor, even though he can't barely hold a crayon properly. And our parents believe her every single time. The boys have given up trying to defend themselves. They just accept the punishments, do the extra chores, take the yelling. It's easier than fighting a battle they'll never win. Kayla and I try to shield them from the worst of it, but we can only do so much. About 6 months ago, I started keeping a mental tally, not because I'm trying to be petty, but because I wanted to confirm I wasn't going crazy, that the favoritism was as bad as it felt. In 1 week, just 1 week, my parents told Paisley they loved her 47 times. I counted. They told the boys they loved them a combined total of 0 times. 0. When I told Kayla about this, she looked like she might throw up. Are you sure? Positive. I kept track for 7 days straight. That's abuse, right? Like emotional neglect? I don't know. Maybe? But who would believe us? From the outside, it looks like we have everything. Big house, plenty of food, both parents present. No one would believe that we're being neglected just because our parents are obsessed with one kid. And that's the trap we're stuck in. We're not being physically abused. We're not starving. We have a roof over our heads. By all objective measures, we're fine. But emotionally, we're drowning. Daniel has started acting out at school, getting in fights, talking back to teachers. Mason has gotten so quiet, I sometimes forget he's in the room. Connor has started having nightmares. Liam has separation anxiety and cries when Kayla or I leave the house. And our parents don't notice any of it because they're too busy making sure Paisley is happy. The breaking point came yesterday. I should have seen it coming, honestly. There were signs. My parents had been acting weird for a few weeks, secretive, whispering to each other and stopping when we walked into the room, spending a lot of time on their phones, looking at something and smiling. I thought maybe they were planning a surprise for one of us. Maybe they'd finally realized how imbalanced things were and were trying to make it up to the boys. I should have known better.
Yesterday afternoon, I came home from school, and the house was in its usual state of organized chaos. Ethan was in his playpen, playing with some blocks. Liam was watching cartoons. Connor was supposed to be doing homework, but was actually building a fort out of couch cushions. I dropped my backpack and went to find Kayla. She was in the kitchen trying to figure out what to make for dinner while simultaneously helping Mason with his science homework. "Where's Mom and Dad?" I asked. She gestured toward the living room with her head. In there with Paisley, she wanted to watch some movies, so they're having a special movie afternoon with her. Of course they were. I started on my own homework, but I kept getting distracted by the sounds of laughter from the living room. Mom and Dad were laughing at whatever movie they were watching with Paisley, completely oblivious to the fact that Kayla was overwhelmed in the kitchen, or that Connor needed help with his homework, or that Liam had been wearing the same shirt for 3 days because no one had done laundry. After about an hour, Mom and Dad finally emerged from the living room. Paisley skipped off to her room, the only kid in the house who has their own room, by the way. The rest of us share, and Mom and Dad sat down at the kitchen table. That's when I noticed Mom had her laptop. "Oh, I wanted to show you something," Mom said to Dad, her voice all excited. She opened the laptop and I could see she was on some website. It took me a second to realize what I was looking at. Baby clothes. Tiny onesies with cute sayings, little shoes that couldn't possibly fit a human foot, miniature hats with animal ears. "Look at this one," Mom cooed, turning the laptop so Dad could see better. "Wouldn't this be perfect?" Dad smiled, that dopey, lovesick smile he usually reserves for looking at Paisley. "That's adorable! We should get that one!" My stomach dropped. No, they couldn't be serious. "Are you guys shopping for baby clothes?" Kayla asked, her voice carefully neutral. She'd noticed too. "Oh yes," Mom's face lit up. "Your father and I have been talking, and we've decided we want to have another baby." The silence that followed was deafening. Kayla and I just stared at them. In the living room, I could hear Connor pause his game. "Another baby?" I repeated slowly, hoping I'd misheard. "Yes, wouldn't that be wonderful? Ethan's getting so big, and I miss having a newborn around." "You miss having a newborn around? Not we want to expand our family or we have so much love to give. She missed having a baby around like someone might miss having a pet." "We know it's a big decision," Dad added, completely misreading our stunned silence as surprise instead of horror. "But we think the timing is right. Kayla will be off to college soon, but you'll still be here to help out, Marcus." There it was. The real reason. Kayla was leaving, and they needed to make sure there was still a built-in babysitter. "We're thinking we might start trying next month," Mom continued, scrolling through more baby clothes. "Oh, look at these little booties!" Something inside me just snapped. All the years of watching my brothers be ignored, all the years of parenting children I didn't create, all the years of watching Paisley be worshipped while the rest of us were afterthoughts, all the exhaustion, all the resentment, all the anger I'd been swallowing down. It all came bubbling up at once. "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" Mom's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "Marcus, language! No, seriously, are you fucking kidding me?" My voice was getting louder, but I couldn't stop it. "Why the fuck would you bring another innocent baby into this mess?" "Marcus, that's enough," Dad started to stand up. "No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. What happens if Paisley doesn't like the new baby? Just gonna hand them off to me and Kayla like you did with everyone else you no longer wanted?" "How dare you?" Mom's voice was shaking.
How dare I? How dare you? I was shouting now, and I could hear footsteps as the boys started gathering in the doorway. You have 8 kids, but you only give a shit about one of them, and now you want to have a 9th? We love all of you equally. Dad's face was turning red. Bullshit! The word exploded out of me. That is complete and utter bullshit, and you know it. Marcus, stop it right now. Mom was standing now, too, both of them towering over me. But I was past the point of no return. Years of silence, of being the good son, of not making waves. It was all done. Tell me the last time you told any of the boys you loved them. Right now. Tell me. They both stared at me. Tell me, I demanded. When was the last time you told Connor or Liam or Ethan that you loved them? When was the last time you tucked them in at night? When was the last time you asked Daniel about his day and actually listened to the answer? When was the last time you helped Mason with his homework? Silence. They couldn't answer because they didn't know. They literally couldn't remember. You know how many times you've told Paisley you love her in the past 12 hours? I pulled out my phone where I'd been keeping notes. 10 times. 10! And you haven't said it to the boys once? Not once? That's not fair, Mom tried. It's completely fair. You have a blatant favorite and you need to stop having kids. You can't even take care of the ones you already have. How I choose to use my body is none of your business. Mom's voice was shrill now.
You have no right to tell me whether or not I can have more children. And you have no right to keep having children you won't take care of, I shot back. Kayla and I are not the parents here, but we're doing all the parenting. We make sure they eat, we help with homework, we put them to bed. We love them because you don't. We love all of our children, Dad shouted. Then prove it. Tell me one thing you've done for the boys this week that wasn't necessary for basic survival. More silence. That's what I thought. My voice was quieter now, but somehow more devastating. You can't, because you don't do anything for them. You know how many times you've told Paisley you love her in the past 12 hours? I pulled out my phone where I've been keeping notes. 10 times. 10! And you haven't said it to the boys once? Not once? Get out of this kitchen right now. Dad's voice had that dangerous edge to it. Gladly, I grabbed my phone and headed toward the door. But just so you know, when Kayla leaves for college, I'm not doing this anymore. Find another built-in babysitter because I'm done raising your kids for you. I stormed up to the room I share with Daniel and Mason and slammed the door. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing. I couldn't believe what I just said to my parents. But I also couldn't believe it had taken me this long to say it.
I stayed in my room for about 20 minutes, just trying to calm down. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even scroll through my phone properly. Then there was a soft knock on the door. Marcus? It was Kayla. Come in. She slipped inside and closed the door behind her. Her face was pale and she looked shaken. Well, she said, sitting down on Mason's bed across from me. That was intense. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. She held up a hand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that was a lot. Aren't they really mad? Oh, they're furious. Mom's crying, Dad's pacing around the kitchen. They're both talking about how disrespectful you were and how they don't deserve to be treated this way in their own home. I laughed bitterly. Of course that's what they're focusing on. Not the fact that I'm right, but that I was rude about it. Kayla was quiet for a moment. Daniel and Mason are glad you said something. They told me when I went to check on them. They've been feeling the same way for years, but didn't know how to say it. And the little ones? Connor's confused. He doesn't really understand what happened. Liam's upset because everyone was yelling. And Ethan's just being Ethan. He doesn't get it. What about Paisley? Kayla's expression darkened. I think she heard some of it. Mom went in to comfort her and tell her that everything was fine. Of course she did. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Kayla said something that surprised me. You went off pretty hard. Maybe harder than you needed to. I looked at her, feeling defensive. So you think I was wrong? No, she said quickly. I think you were right. About all of it. The favoritism, the neglect, everything. But Marcus, now we have to live with the consequences. The house is going to be tense as hell, and the boys are going to feel it. She was right, and I knew it. That's the thing that had been nagging at me since I cooled down. Yes, everything I said needed to be said. But now all of us had to deal with the fallout, and the boys were going to suffer for it. I just couldn't hold it in anymore, I said quietly. The idea of them having another baby when they can't even take care of the ones they have, it made me feel sick. I know, me too. There was another knock on the door. Daniel poked his head in. Can we come in? Behind him was Mason. I nodded, and they both entered, closing the door behind them. That was awesome, Daniel said, a grin spreading across his face. No, it wasn't. It was a disaster. No, dude, it was awesome, Mason agreed. Someone needed to tell them. We've all been thinking it for years. Yeah, but now everyone's upset and... So what? Daniel interrupted. They should be upset. They've been terrible parents to everyone except for Paisley. At least now they know we've noticed. You really think they're going to change? I asked, genuinely curious. Both of them were quiet for a moment. Then Mason said, Probably not, but at least they can't pretend anymore that everything is fine. He was right. That was the one thing my outburst had accomplished. It had shattered the illusion that we were all one big happy family where everyone was loved equally.
The rest of that night was some of the most uncomfortable hours of my life. Dinner was silent. Mom made spaghetti, Paisley's favorite, and we all sat around the table in complete silence except for the scraping of forks against plates. Paisley kept looking between me and our parents, clearly sensing the tension but not quite understanding it. At one point, she started to say something about her day at school, and Mom immediately engaged with her, asking questions and being overly enthusiastic in a way that felt performative, like she was trying to prove something. Dad wouldn't look at me at all. Every time I glanced in his direction, his eyes were fixed on his plate or on Paisley. Kayla tried to keep things normal for the little one's sake, asking Connor about his day at kindergarten and helping Liam cut his spaghetti, but even she couldn't completely mask the tension. After dinner, I went to do the dishes like I always do. As I was loading the dishwasher, Mom came into the kitchen. "Marcus, we need to talk." I didn't turn around, just kept loading plates. "Okay." "What you said earlier was completely unacceptable. You disrespected your father and me, you upset your siblings, and you said things that were hurtful and untrue." I turned to face her then. "What part was untrue?" She faltered. "All of it. We love all of you equally." "When was the last time you told the boys you loved them?" I interrupted. "You still haven't answered that question." "I don't need to keep track of every time I say I love you to prove my love." "No, but if you can't remember the last time you said it, that's a problem." Mom's face was turning red. "You're grounded. For a week. No phone, no friends, straight home after school." "Fine. And you owe us an apology, both of us." "For what? Telling the truth?" "For being disrespectful." "I'll apologize for my tone," I said carefully, "but I won't apologize for what I said, because it's all true." Mom looked like she wanted to argue more, but Dad called her name from the living room. She gave me one more angry look and left. I finished the dishes alone, my hands shaking again. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, Daniel and Mason were unusually quiet. Finally, Daniel said, "Are you really grounded?" "Yep." "That's stupid," Mason muttered. "You were right." "Being right doesn't always protect you from consequences," I said, climbing into my bunk. "Are they really going to have another baby?" Daniel asked, his voice small. "I don't want another baby," Mason said. "We already don't have enough attention to go around." "I know, bud. I know." The next morning was Saturday, which meant no school, which meant we were all stuck in the house together. The tension from the night before had somehow multiplied overnight. Mom was aggressively cheerful with Paisley, making her special pancakes and asking what she wanted to do today. Dad was shut down, barely speaking to anyone. And the boys were walking on eggshells, trying not to do anything that might cause another explosion. Around mid-morning, I found Kayla in a room looking at colleges on her laptop. "Escape planning?" I asked, trying to joke. She didn't smile. "Marcus, I need to tell you something." The serious tone in her voice made me nervous. I closed the door and sat on her bed. "What's wrong?" "I got an email from State University. I got in. Full scholarship." "That's amazing. That's the one you wanted, right?" "Yeah." But she didn't look happy. "But Marcus, if I go, that leaves you here alone to deal with all of this." "I'll be fine." "No, you won't. You'll be drowning. And the boys, they need both of us." "Kayla, you're not giving up college because of this family's dysfunction. That's insane." "But," "No buts. You're going. You worked too hard to give this up. I'll figure it out." "How? You just told your parents you won't keep raising their kids. What happens when I'm gone and they try to make you do everything?" It was a question I'd been avoiding thinking about. The honest answer was I didn't know. In less than 3 years, I'd be 18 and could leave. But that was 3 years of potentially being solely responsible for 6 younger siblings, while my parents focused on Paisley and possibly another baby. "I'll deal with it when the time comes," I said, not very convincingly.
Kayla looked at me for a long moment. Then she said something that changed everything. Maybe we need to get someone else involved. Like who? I don't know. A school counselor? CPS? Someone who can see what's happening here and make them accountable? The thought terrified me. What if they make it worse? What if CPS splits us up? Would that be worse than this? I didn't have an answer for that.
By Sunday evening, the tension in the house had reached a breaking point. Nobody was talking to anyone. Mom and Dad were barely speaking to each other. Paisley was confused and clingy. The boys were subdued. That's when Dad called a family meeting. We all gathered in the living room. Even Ethan was there, though he immediately started playing with toys on the floor, oblivious to the serious faces around him. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been talking, and we want to address what happened on Friday. Here it comes, I thought. The lecture about respecting our parents, about being grateful for what we have, about how hard they work for us. But that's not what happened. Marcus, Dad started, and I braced myself. Some of what you said was difficult to hear. I stayed quiet. Your mother and I don't agree with your characterization of our parenting. We love all of you very much, and we try our best to be fair. But, Caleb prompted when he paused. Dad shifted uncomfortably. But we're willing to acknowledge that perhaps we haven't been as attentive to all of you as we should be. It wasn't an apology, but it was closer than I'd expected. Mom jumped in. We've decided to make some changes. We're going to implement a schedule where each of you gets one-on-one time with us each week. And, Dad added, we're going to be more mindful about how we distribute our attention and resources. I wanted to believe them. I really did. But I'd heard promises before. What about the baby? I asked bluntly. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. We're putting that on hold. For now. We're going to focus on the family we already have. It was something. Not everything I wanted, but something. And what about Paisley? Daniel asked quietly. Is she still going to get everything while we get nothing? Daniel, that's not... Mom started. It is, though, Mason interrupted. Marcus was right. You tell Paisley you love her all the time. When was the last time you told me? Mom's face crumpled a little. I tell you all the time. No, you don't, Mason said, his voice shaking. I can't remember the last time either of you said it to me. The silence that followed was devastating. Finally, Dad spoke, and his voice was different, quieter. Mason, I'm sorry. You're right. I don't say it enough. But I do love you. I love all of you. Then prove it, Daniel said, echoing what I had said 2 days ago. Don't just say it now because we're calling you out. Prove it every day. Mom was crying now. We will. We'll do better. I promise. I wanted to trust that promise. But trust is earned, not given, and they had a lot of earning to do. Over the next few weeks, things did start to change. Slowly, imperfectly, but they changed. Dad started taking each of us out individually, just short trips to get ice cream or throw a ball around, but it was time that was just ours. Mom started saying, I love you, to all of us, not just Paisley. They implemented the one-on-one time like they'd promised. It wasn't perfect. Paisley still got more attention and more privileges. Old habits die hard. But It was better than it had been. The baby plan was quietly shelved. The baby clothes website stayed closed. About a month after the confrontation, I was doing dishes again. Still my chore. And Mom came into the kitchen. "Marcus, I never actually said this, and I should have. I'm sorry." I turned to look at her, surprised. "I'm sorry we made you feel like you didn't matter. I'm sorry we put so much on you and Kayla, and I'm sorry it took you exploding at us for me to see it."
Thanks, I said, not quite ready to forgive completely, but appreciating the words. You were right, she continued, about the favoritism. I didn't see it until you laid it all out, but you were right, and we're going to keep working on it. It wasn't a magic fix. Our family is still messy and complicated. Paisley is still their favorite. I don't think that's going to change completely. But now there's at least an awareness, an acknowledgement that things weren't okay, and that's more than we had before. Looking back on that confrontation, I don't regret it. Was it harsh? Yeah. Did it need to happen? Absolutely. Because here's what I've learned. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you need to disrupt the peace to create real change. Sometimes being the good kid who doesn't make waves means you're drowning silently while everyone else stays comfortable. My parents needed to hear that they were failing most of their children. It was uncomfortable. It caused tension. It probably hurt their feelings. But you know what else was uncomfortable? Being raised by my 17-year-old sister because my parents were too obsessed with one child to care for the others. To anyone out there in a similar situation, whether you're the parentified older sibling, or the neglected middle child, or the forgotten youngest, your feelings are valid. You're not being dramatic. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for basic love and attention, and you deserve that. Did I handle it perfectly? No. Could I have been more diplomatic? Probably. But sometimes you can't be diplomatic about neglect. Sometimes you just have to say it as plainly as possible. This isn't okay, and it needs to change. My family is still a work in progress. We probably always will be. But at least now, we're progressing instead of pretending. And for my brothers, that makes all the difference. So, to answer the original question, am I the asshole for calling out my parents' favoritism and telling them to stop having kids? Maybe I was harsh. Maybe I could have chosen better words. But an asshole? No. I was desperate, I was exhausted, and I was advocating for children who couldn't advocate for themselves. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some things are more important than keeping the peace, like making sure your siblings know they matter, like standing up to people who are supposed to protect you but are actually hurting you, like teaching a 4-year-old that he doesn't have to do his own laundry while his 9-year-old sister gets served like royalty. If that makes me an asshole, and so be it. But I prefer to think of it as being the only adult in a house full of children. And I don't just mean the kids.